This time at the Quick Speed Shop, check it out. Bam! I made this awesome 4-foot sheet metal brake. I'm a professional, don't try this at home. Okay, so why did I build a 4-foot wide homemade sheet metal brake? Well, I'll tell you why. I had a cheap junk 36-inch wide Harbor Freight brake, and it was pretty much worthless. It would move all over the place. It didn't hardly do any bending for what I wanted to do with it, and I ended up just being mad at it the whole time. So I'm like, screw it, I'm building my own brake. So I went to the scrap yard to get some steel cutoffs here. This is all made out of cut-off pieces of steel I got for 80 cents a pound at the steel mill, and pretty much made a 4-foot brake with a truss on top, and it works pretty good. It's manual, but it seems to work nice, and hopefully it'll be here for a long time in the future, and I can do a lot of bending with it. So let's go back to the beginning and I'll show you how I started. Okay, the materials I got to work with here, I got all these at the scrap yard. The surplus metal place, I picked them all out of the bins already pre-cut. I just had to measure pieces to find ones long enough to work with. The main plate of the sheet metal brake is here. It's I think it's 4x4, 5x5 channel or angle, and it's worn off there. What do we got here? It's 3/8 plate. Our pivot is 2.5 or 2.25 by 3.5. This is going to be the pivot point that bends up to make the sheet metal. The top of the brake is this angle here. It's 3x3. I think it's also like 3/8. It's a shade under 3/8. No, it's 3/8. So this stuff's all 3/8. Then I got some square tubing here that was cut-offs too. This already had the 45s cut on it, so I'm going to stick these out where your feet go. But this will be the feet to sit on, and I got some 2x2, or well, 2.25 by 2. This is 2.25. This must be what, 3. So I got 2.25 square, and I got 3 square. These are going to be the legs and the feet. Then over here, this is even heavier. I think this is like 5/16. This is going to weld onto the end of the top piece here, and this is what the bolt and the spring is going to go to. That's going to lift up the clamp here. So these will weld on to the side. Okay, I think we're going to build this thing from the bottom up. We're going to work from the legs up. This is going to sit right on the floor, but a lot of concrete floors, especially the one like in my garage, aren't the smoothest and they're uneven and stuff. So if you got a big expanse of like 24 inches of flat steel, the thing is likely to rock around on the floor. So I'm making a little feet on here. I just got some flat stock. It's like, I don't know, 3/16 flat stock, 1 inch wide. I'm welding the little feet onto the bottom of the big feet first, so that way you'll just have 4 tiny little contact patches that can sit on a surface that's not completely flat, and the thing shouldn't walk around. So I've taken the grinder, I've ground all the mill scale off all this steel with a flap wheel, and I've cut my pieces. I'm just going to tack them on here, and we're going to build. I've got actually the surface here. I'm going to use that for a jig. We'll build the 2 legs, we'll square them up, build those up right quick, and then we'll stand them up and tack them to this, the piece that's going to be the bottom of the brake, and we'll get this thing freestanding in a hurry. There you can see the little feet right on there. Ooh, she's smoking. That's way more than good enough. I'll just hit it with a flap wheel and knock them down flat. But then you'll see here, like here, it'll sit up in the air a little bit, and that'll keep any debris that's under the feet from making the thing rattle around. So I'll just go ahead and do the same thing on the other leg, and then we'll assemble the upright part of the leg next. Okay, I got the legs set up here. I've gone ahead and I've used my magnetic, 90-degree pieces here. I've laid it down. Now, I'm going to make a right and left leg. There's going to be a little bit of step here because of wider tubing. I'm going to have it, just because it's easier for me to set it down on this flat table surface, I'm going to have a step on the outside, and when I build the other leg, it'll have to be the reverse of it. But I've got my 90-degree pieces here. I don't trust these magnets to pull this thing perfectly 90, so I've got a framing square. And I'm going to come in here with the framing square and just double check that I am square here, because these magnets might push a little bit. Okay, so now I'm square, And I'm sitting on the flat surface of the steel, so if I had a welding table, this would be a lot easier, but I don't. So we're kind of cheating here on the edge. But I've got my legs straightened out here nice. And I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of tacks in. Now I ground the bevel on the edge of the steel where I'm going to weld so I can get good penetration in there. I'm going to flip this 180 and tack the other side of it. Now that I'm confident that my leg is square here, I'm just going to go ahead and burn these 4 edges in right quick and assemble this leg permanently. Okay, I went and I cut the legs off, took 6 inches off. I also had to notch, see this here, notch the front end. Here's the front. Had to notch here on both sides because over here on the bottom of the angle iron, you'll notice this round edge here. Actually, let me get a side profile. You'll notice the round edge of this angle iron would not fit a piece of square tubing. So if I try to put my legs in there, see that? It's not going to sit squared. The legs would be way out here. So I took that notch out of the corner, and that should more than compensate for that. So the legs will sit tight up to the front edge and then tight to the top edge. I also went and I ground the mill scale down here where the legs are going to sit. I've got a couple of marks. Right here it comes. How are we looking? I can't see my marks. There we go. It's just a real precursory fit. Oh yeah, that's a lot better. So here, you can see here I am. I'm at a good height for lifting and bending. That looks good. Now it's only about 40 inches off the ground. Or actually, it's a shade under 40, I think. Because I took... see what it is. Yeah, 37 and a half off the ground. So that's a good working height here. You can see how wide it's going to be. You can also see down in here, oh yeah, that notch cleared good, so I can get good weld penetration all the way around. So I just need to slide this up to my marks, get the legs lined up, clamp it in place, make sure everything is square, and then I'm going to tack it and get her tacked down there, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I got her all welded up nice. This is a nice good height to work on. It's nice and steady and sturdy. So I think this is going to work out good. So I'll show you how we're going to start fabricating the clamp mechanism for the sheet metal. I got my angle iron here. So this essentially is the clamp piece. And then over here on the side, there's going to be 2 pieces of angle iron with a bolt with a spring. And the spring will be underneath this to help pick this up when you want to get the metal out from under it. And this, I think it's a 5/8 bolt, will be welded to the plate here, and then it'll go through this. And so you have a simple wrench. You'll take the nut off a couple turns. The spring will pick this up enough to pull your sheet metal out. And then when you put it back in, you start to put some tension on it and clamp it down, then crank it down here, and that's your clamping mechanism. Now hopefully you can see when I slide this angle iron over here to make the edge of the pivot, there's a rounded edge here where if you want to take the sheet metal and bend it up on, it's actually going to bend back from this edge in here about 1/8 inch because of the rounded edge of this angle iron. So to rectify that and make a chiseled edge, I'm going to get some flat stock. This is just for display purposes, but I'm going to get a piece of like 3-inch flat stock and drill and tap this and make like a folding edge that I can easily take the grinder and take this edge off and make a 45 or, well, I guess a 30-degree angle and make a very sharp point right here that will bend the sheet metal nicely. Then I'll just probably take some 5/16 bolts and drill and tap right into here. I'll probably get a piece like this, like 3/16 thick, just so it's got some bite, and I'll just drill and tap it down along the way. But that'll give you a very sharp point to bend the sheet metal up, and you'll be able to bend this up to 90, then bend past 90 if you want to go past 90. but it'll make a nice tight edge down here. So that's the plan with that. I got the piece that goes up here to clamp, and I'm doing like I said, where I was going to put the flat stock on. I'm drilling and tapping quarter 20 holes for quarter 20 bolts. Using my tap, I'll set you down and show you that process. And I've got the flat stock over here that I'm drilling to make that piece, and once we get it all put in, we'll check that out. What I simply do is I drill these holes to 13/64 or number 7 for a quarter 20 tap. And I take my tap and I start her in here. You gotta be very careful, don't snap your tap off. Get her started in there straight. I got some cutting fluid, or you can use oil, any type of oil. This is actual cutting fluid I have, but motor oil, gear oil, whatever, any type of oil. Just tap the hole, go about a turn on my tap, and I turn it back and snap the chip off, and then continue down. Never have too much oil here. There, she's tapped all the way through. I'm just going to take a rag and wipe the chips off the bottom so I don't drag them back through the fresh threads. And I'll just go ahead and back the tap right out here. I'm using a cut and tap here with a tapered end. They also make a bottom tap if you're doing a blind hole that has like a flat end on it, but since this is a through hole, I'll use that one. And then we'll just take our 1/4 inch bolt right here. Which one of these did I just do? This one. And the bolt thread right in there. Obviously the one that holds down the sheet metal is going to be a lot shorter, but I'm just trying it out to make sure the threads are good. And there we go. So I've already tapped out all the other holes here. They're all set. So I'm good with that. I'm going to drill out the strip, and then we're going to set this back up in here. Okay, so I got the edge all bolted on here, and you can see right here, it comes right down right flush with that edge there, so it's nice. And I don't know if you can see it, maybe, but it's right tight down there, so it's going to be nice and good. I used some stainless steel 1/4 20 bolts I had to hold it on there. But what I'm working on now is I got the end pieces tacked on, and I've got my 5/8 bolt sitting here on the collar, on the shoulder where it's going to be, and the nut. So I've got this thing all lined up, so I'm just going to tack these bolts around here, and then double check it, then weld these bolts in, and that will secure the whole top piece here, and then the clamp part will essentially be done. And then we're almost up to the point to start laying out the hinges for the flip piece here. I went and got these at the trailer store. They're 1-inch solid stock turned down. Got a grease fitting with a hole. Where is it? Yeah, right there is a hole with a grease fit. That's not good for it. Come on. So there we got a grease fitting and a hole to grease the thing. These are for like a gate on a trailer. You have a fold down gate, but this is should be super heavy duty. I might need to machine this down with a grinder a little bit to fit in here, or cut this corner out depending on where it fits. But this will weld in here like this, and then have a greasable joint, and it should be super strong and not want to flex or bend or nothing. So we've got to cut a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch slot in this and the pivot down there, and then lay these hinges in there next, and tack them in and see how it functions. Okay, I got my notches cut here in the main piece, and the hinge is going to lay right in here like that. The grease fitting will stick out. You know, obviously this solid billet piece will get welded to the flipper part, and then this outside collar will get welded to the base of the unit here. But that works out good, and it looks like it's going to be right in the center there. One thing you see here, I want to space the flipper part out about 18 gauges. This piece 18 gauges steel. I want to space out just a little bit, so when you make the flip up here, it doesn't like bunch up right at the edge. Just to give it a little bit of space, and there'll be just a little bit of play in these hinges too, but that should make it so the thing doesn't want to bind on the edge here. I can see the gap that left in there. That'll give just a little bit of space as the metal's out here and it starts to bend. You'll let it bend without binding on the sheet metal there. So we got just a little bit of gap. That looks good. The cutting edge, or the bending edge, will come out right to the edge of here. So just got this little bit of space. These will lay right down in here like this. Oh, my gaps are kind of big. Crap. Because I didn't account for the spacer. Mark the end of my pivots here with a crosshatch. I guess the only thing to do is to like hold it up in here and try to tack her up on and see what happens. It's going to be my modus operandi here, I guess. See what happens. Here we go. Yes, sir. It works. It works like gangbusters. Look at that. Bam! Okay, here you go. Watch this. It's working. It's working. Did one fine little snafu here, though. I welded around the end of the bung there. Watch this, and I flip it up all the way. The weld hits here in the corner of this. So I got to take the cutoff wheel, and I just got to grind this weld back here on the back side of the bung so it doesn't hit here, because it doesn't allow it to open up as far as it could. But other than that, it seems to be working real good. I went and I welded on the bottom all the way around so she's tied in, and got just a little bit of play in these pins, hardly any. Putting some grease in there when it's done should take up a little bit of the slop. But man, it works good. All right, check it out now. I got the top piece on there. It looks good. You see a little mark on here. Let me show you what this is about. Oops, a little design flaw here. The side of this hits the side of here, so I can't bend it as far as I want to bend it there. So I'm just going to cut that out. That should go right past here, and I'll just dress this up with a grinder. Okay, here we go. I put the edge back on it here, and take a look at the springs. I've painted them red. Don't ask me what they're from, because I just found them in my junk drawer, and they're rusty, but they're the right height. You could probably use like a valve spring out of a V8, you know, or something like that. Just got a couple of washers under here, but right now it's loose, and got a piece of sheet metal here. We're going to try it out. All right, it's a piece of 18 gauge here. I'm just going to, where's my tool? I'm just going to go ahead and slide it up into the brake. I'm going to run these down. The spring's clamped down tight there. I don't have a handle on this yet, obviously. Where's my... I'm going to use a pair of vice grips for a handle right quick. But in theory, this should work. Look at that. Went a little past 90 there, but how awesome was that? Holy smokes. Look at that. Bam! Now it's not a super tight 90, but guess what? For a homemade brake, that's pretty nice, and that worked good. Let me shear this off. Let's see if I can do a lot longer dimension here. All right. Oh, it's working. Bam. Look at that. Bend it up over that dimension there. This piece is 31.5 inches long. Let's see how it does with this. Okay, it's struggling a little bit. Alright, I can see it's lifting this piece here. So I'm going to have to install the extra bolts here. I don't want to spring it. Yeah, I'm going to need a longer handle and some bolt action there. So I'm going to do some beefing up on it. Okay, took the flex out of the top of this piece here. Now you can see that I put a bend on this big long piece of 18 gauge. And what I did is simply took some old rebar that I had laying around. This is like 3/4 inch diameter, so what would that make it? Like number 6 bar, I think, something like that. Anyways, and I took a 1/2 inch bolt and a little piece of tubing, and simply to adjust the tension of this, you have a nut on here, and you take and you tension it, put the tension down on it, up and down, and it pushes on the angle iron and puts tension into the piece when you're trying to bend something that's long like this, and it keeps all the force down there. So I tighten down the ends. I put my sheet metal in, I tighten down the ends, and then I give a turn on this, and when I start to bend it, if it slips at all in the middle or starts to spring this, I can just take a 3/4 inch wrench and just put a little bit more tension on this nut. It takes all the force through this truss. It pushes it out here where it's welded into the ends of this, and then it directs the force straight down, which keeps this thing nice and flat and true here. You'll see this on big brakes and big industrial brakes, but on a lot more massive scale. But it's the same thing. It works the same idea. A truss works all the time. And there we go. I fixed that. And I'm just going to add a couple of handles down here, hanging down here, that will grab on this and pull it up and work on it. But it's pretty much all done here. I'm just going to clean the mill scale all up. Oop, that's hot. Just going to clean the mill scale up. I'm just going to paint it up and put it into usage. So it came out really nice. I'm super excited about it, and it should work good for many years in the future. So, bam! That's how you make cool stuff at home. Don't go out and buy a lot of fancy tools if you don't use them. You usually can use some ingenuity and make some things from scratch like this. I did steal a bunch of these ideas off the YouTubes, like the springs and a bolt in this style. I've seen a lot of people. I watched a bunch of videos, and this thing seems to be good. I like using the gate hinges from the trailer place. That worked good. How it's still hot. That worked good with the grease fittings. This would be nice to have greasable action in here. And I'm really happy with it. Once in a while you hit a home run, you build something cool that's functional, and it looks good too. So, triple win for the Quick Speed Shop. Alright, hold on, one last update. Look, I painted it. It's the next day. I painted the whole thing flat black. I painted my grab sources red here. I got the springs painted red. And then when I put the clamping bar up back on here, which is drying, it's not dry yet, that's red as well. So any part that moves, the springs, the handles, and the clamping thing is red. The rest of it's flat black. And it looks pretty snazzy, I think. Alright, that's it. Now we're going to the end of the video. It was a fun build to build this thing, and I'm glad that I took the time to do it. It wasn't real expensive, like I said, about $230 altogether. And I should have a nice brake that'll be useful for many years in the future. And it's super beefy, super heavy duty. I might put some other stuff on it along the way, but this is a good start. I can't wait to get it put back to usage in the shop. So in the meantime, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'm putting out new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Hit the bell for your alerts, tell your friends, and we'll see you right back here at the Quick Speed Shop building cool stuff like this homemade 4-foot sheet metal brake.